Thanks for joining us. Today's webinar topic, our Sojourn program through Provence and the French Riviera happening next year in October. So a couple of quick words for those of you who have attended more than one webinar. You'll have heard me talk about this, so I'll be brief. Wheel and Anchor is a community of travelers who have a like-minded view of travel. And so if you've read our Traveler's Creed, and every day I get emails from new members that join us saying, yes, this is the kind of dynamic that we want to have when we're traveling with other folks. So we're kind of like a club. I hesitate to use the word club, but we really pride ourselves in bringing people with, who get along together. And of course, it's not always the case that everybody gets along, but mostly we have folks that really enjoy each other's company and enjoy traveling together and sharing all those memories. And that's really our goal, which is that you become connected to other people, the people that are in the group, the people that you meet along the way. And that you also, in doing so, obviously become well-traveled and get to see all these amazing parts of the world and go that layer deeper, which is exactly what we do on this program for the reasons I'll share with you in just a moment. Just a quick introduction of the team. My name is Gordon Drager. I'm the founder of Wheel and Anchor. I'm also the person who curates all of these trips. And I couldn't do all of this without the support of an amazing team, in particular, our trip specialists, Barb, who's here with me on the webinar, and Paula, who are the main folks that you will reach if you dial into our office to ask questions about a trip, or if you decide to join us on a trip. You'll be talking to Barb and Paula. So today, I'm going to take you a little bit on a tour of southern France, in particular Provence. That is the region that we are focused on here and where we're headed in October of 2024. We're also going, by the way, in the spring, and there are still a couple spots left. In case you decide after this webinar you want to go sooner than later, you can still join us on our spring trip to Provence, which will be the same program as we are talking about here today. Just to give you a little map overview of the area that we're talking about, if you look at the inset, you can see down here Provence, of course, in this southeastern part of France along the coast. That's the area that we're focusing on. And in particular, we start the program in Nice, which of course is the largest city in Provence, the capital, if you will, of Provence, a city that hardly needs any introduction. It's also the principal city along the Côte d'Azur, which is this section of coast here, the French Riviera, as we call it in English. From Nice, where we'll be spending the first few days and visiting not only this amazing city that has changed so much in the 30 years since I first went there, we'll be heading up into the Haute-Provence, which is this area here. We'll be staying in a town called Forcalquier, which I'll tell you about in a minute, visiting places up like Luberon, as well as Moustier in the Verdun region. We'll then spend the last segment of our program down here in Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, which is in the Alpes region, in the Rhone Valley, if you will. This is the Rhone River that empties out here at Arles into the Mediterranean. And we're going to be, from there, we're going to be visiting Avignon, Arles itself, before heading back from Marseille, or continuing your journey, because, of course, this trip precedes this trip actually follows our Canal du Midi trip in the fall. And so you can, if you're interested in sailing along the canals of southwestern France in the Languedoc-Roussillon region, that trip happens immediately before this. So they fit nicely together for a great tour around France. We visited here in 2022. You can see our group of smiling faces. We had a wonderful trip. And you can get a sense of what some of these hilltop villages in the Luberon area look like. We had loads of fun. We visited this amazing olive oil production, a small production at Moulin Castellat, not far from Avignon. We had some great times, great experiences in last year, and we look forward to doing the same next year. So let's go through the program without further ado. And we're going to start off in Nice. And of course, this is a great view of Nice. If you're willing to walk up the steps to this beautiful park that overlooks the city, this is always how we end our half-day tour in Nice, only because, as I say, the views are so amazing. You get to look all the way west along the beautiful beaches of Nice out towards Cannes, for example, and the other towns that are out to the west. So when we arrive into Nice, of course, the first day we don't really undertake a lot. If you're joining us on the program after the Canal du Midi, then you'll obviously have already overcome the jet lag. But we make it a chill day. We're staying at a wonderful hotel just on the western side of downtown, so in a 10-minute walk. You can be in the main square of Nice. In 15 minutes, you're in Vieux-Nice, which is the old town that's actually down here in the bottom part of the picture. And you'll immediately be impressed by these Belle Époque and the Baroque buildings that Nice is so famous for. Not to mention, of course, the Promenade des Anglais. That's this long promenade that goes along the beach, which is so nice to stroll along, gives you a feel of being in Nice. We'll meet our guide the next day and start off with a walking tour that's going to take in the highlights of Nice. And as I say, partly the Promenade des Anglais, the newer parts of Nice. They built a beautiful park in the middle of Nice. Since I was first there 30 years ago, the city has transformed completely. It was kind of gray and grimy back then. It was always famous along the seafront, but the inside of the city has undergone a complete transformation. And so we'll have a lovely walk around for the morning and get a taste of what the city is all about, the history of it, and sort of the evolution that's happened over several centuries. And quite frankly, just in the last 30 years, how it has really transformed. And so we'll do lunch on our own on the first day, and in the afternoon we'll head right out, because I think that the Côte d'Azur is best observed from the water. So we'll do a little boat cruise around the corner, around this peninsula. Nice is just on the other side of this headland here, and we'll visit Cap de Nice. This is actually Cap de Nice here, and then we'll head towards Villefranche-sur-Mer, one of the luxury suburbs. And as you cruise along in the boat, you get to see the rock formations and how these beautiful villas have been built, perched up into the hills, overlooking the Mediterranean. It's really, really stunning. So we'll be out for about an hour and a half, cruising along, and it'll bring us back to the Nice Marina. And then we'll have some time on our own to kind of explore this city and meander around before having a wonderful welcome dinner at a very special spot that we've picked out for you in Nice. So all in all, it'll be a good first day. We're going to try not to overdo it. A little bit of walking, a little bit of boating, and a nice dinner to cap it all off. The next day, we're going to head out into the countryside around Nice. And of course, this part of Provence immediately goes up into quite high mountains, and particularly on the eastern part of Provence. But just to the west, sort of northwest of Nice itself, we have quite a famous town, Saint-Paul-de-Vence, known here as the village of artists. And this is a very, very cool town, not least of which because the views from here looking out towards the coast are beautiful, but the town itself, classic French hilltop town, narrow cobblestone streets. And this place is famous because it is still an artist haven. I mean, it was an artist haven from back in the days of Chagall, Picasso. Many of the great masters spent some time here in Saint-Paul-de-Vence. And still today, there are numerous galleries where you can view, and if you so desire, purchase some art. I always manage to find some little piece that I take with me that I tuck in. It's a remarkable city, and in fact, we'll have lunch just outside town, basically in the location where this picture is taken from. So we get to look up at the city while we're enjoying a sumptuous Provençal lunch. In the afternoon on this day, we'll head over to Grasse, which is the world headquarters of perfume, if you will. And here we'll visit the primary Grasse perfume factory. We'll get a great tour. It's always interesting. I've done the tour a couple of times now, but you always to understand what's involved in creating the fragrances. They create fragrances here for the most famous of perfumes, like Chanel No. 5, are all created here in Grasse. So it's a fascinating exhibition. And then they have this little sort of factory outlet at the end. And yeah, I'm a bit of a cologne lover myself, so I'm always picking up the odd little bit. And as I say, our members really quite enjoy this experience. So we'll head back into town for the evening, and then have dinner on our own. And then the following day, we have a whole day at leisure in Nice. And of course, as you know, with our Sojourn programs, our members love free time. And so we consciously build that in. And in a place like Nice, there are so many different things that you could do in the city. I put up a picture of Monaco because we made a decision following the last trip not to actually put Monaco into the main program. They make it difficult and very costly for organized groups to visit Monaco, such that it just doesn't make sense when we were putting this all together and looking at it, saying, oh, and then the feedback is kind of like, it's a little bit underwhelming. Monaco is, as you know, a small state for the rich and famous. It basically consists of primarily high-rise condos, obviously villas up in the hills. Everything that, they have like the highest per square meter or per square foot residential prices in the world. And they've got big yachts in the marina. But other than that, I mean, you can take a look at the Royal Palace. Let's put it this way. If it's on your bucket list to go and see, we say go and see Monaco. The beauty is that you can take the train in there and be dropped off right in Monaco. And then you walk up a bunch of steps to get to the old part of Monaco here, where of course Prince Albert is housed, and amongst as well all of the extremely wealthy people in Monaco, and you can take a tour around. So it's quite a nice thing to do on your own, but at the same time, a lot of our members, there's so many other things to see in Nice. So we're going to give you a little French Riviera pass that allows you to see all parts of the coast up to essentially the border to Monaco. And there's so many great little towns. Saint-Jean-Cap-Ferrat, Cap-d'Aille, Aix was one of my favorites, up in the hills overlooking Nice and looking over to Monaco as well. A lot of our members, again, they just like to enjoy the time to stroll around Nice and at their own pace. There's other boat trips you can do. If you're a museum fan, of course, Matisse hails from this region and has an incredible collection in the Musée Matisse. A million things to do, and between our host and our local guide will certainly point you in the right direction. But you will undoubtedly enjoy a wonderful free day in Nice. After leaving Nice, we're going to head up, first of all, to Aix-en-Provence. And Provence is, quite a big region. And has sort of very different components to it. So, Nice, the Côte d'Azur, the French Riviera is one part, obviously on the coast to the south. We're going to head up to the northwest to hit Aix-en-Provence. And again, we made I think a very conscious change to this program this year. Last time we stayed in Aix-en-Provence, a very famous town north of Marseille, but it's a very touristy town, and so in a very retail-oriented town. And so while we enjoyed it, it's a beautiful town, and we will stop and see it. It doesn't, it sort of loses its allure because of all the tourists. So, in discussions with our local guide, he's an amazing guy, actually comes from this area around Forcalquier. We decided to stay in a more authentic village in Aix-en-Provence. So we're going to stay here in Forcalquier on the way, and it's very beautiful drive because it's all hills and mountains in the backdrop. We'll stop for lunch in Entrevaux on the way, and we'll arrive into this amazing city that is full of medieval and Renaissance architecture. You can see the cathedral that is up there on the top of the hill. You're going to really enjoy staying in this town for the next few nights. It's a great place to get some of that real Provençal sort of culture. We'll head out the next day to the southwest of Forcalquier into the area called Luberon, which is perhaps the most famous district in Provence. Why? Because the lavender fields, the lavender blooms in the middle of summer, so we're past a little bit the blooming season, but you'll still see all of the fields of the lavender plants, as well as olive oil. There's spectacular abbeys, fortresses, and in fact, one of them that we're going to see in the Luberon is called Abbaye de Senonque, that you can see pictured here. It epitomizes for me this style of architecture that you'll find all throughout Provence. And so this is going to be one of the highlights of the day. We'll have a chance to visit a local Provençal market in a little town called Menerbe, and you'll see all of the local products. And, the French put so much attention and emphasis on fresh products. And I think the markets in France for produce and for meats, as far as I'm concerned, they beat anywhere for the quality and the freshness and the variety of all these products. It's incredible. We're also going to visit the little town of Gordes, which with the stone houses, that actually was the town, the picture that I showed you in the introduction from 2022, with all the stone houses up on the hillside. Really, really beautiful. We're going to do a little wine tasting at Chateau de Mille. So we'll get a chance to find out what makes Provençal wine so special. Of course, they're known for rosé wines down in the area closer to Marseille, but there's so many different flavors that you can enjoy in this region, and ones that we just simply don't get at home. We tend to get the mass market products. On our following day, we're going to make another road trip out for the day. And when we head out for the day, we always are mindful to try and get back by sort of 3-4 in the afternoon, so that you can enjoy some time in the town, go out, wander around Forcalquier for an aperitif. But there's so much to see, so we're balancing between giving you leisure time to relax, enjoy, take it all in, get connected with the sort of the local environment. But this day was one of my favorites. I love the mountains. This area around Verdun and Moustier is the landscape changes again to quite high limestone cliffs that you see here. And so we'll make a short visit in this little town. There's a lovely spot. We stopped for lunch right on the canyon that comes out of these mountains and right through the middle of town. It's just a charming little spot. In the afternoon, we'll go and visit the Gorge de Verdun, which is just outside of town here. Here you can see a picture of me looking out over the gorge. We watched some guys that were scaling the cliffs up the side of the gorge with, to me, I just look over the edge and I just about fall over from height. But again, the views are really, really amazing. And what's eye-opening is that you kind of don't expect this from France. We expect the hilltop towns of Luberon and so on, but these dramatic mountains and landscape with sort of nothing there, vastness, is really quite a refreshing part of the region. We'll also have a free day in Forcalquier because I think when you're there, you'll quickly realize you need time to sort of take it all in on your own. You can go up to that citadel that I showed you in the picture at the beginning. There's so many museums that focus on Provençal history and the settlement of the area. You might just want to go and taste some of this delicious food that comes from here. Ratatouille is a specialty of this region, and like I always say, to try food that from its origin is so different than when you try a ratatouille that's made in Canada, for example. So there'll be lots of time to do that while we're in Forcalquier. We'll then drive down to the southeast. To the southeast, to Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. And again, this is a change we made to the program last time. We stayed in Aix-en-Provence, and we were sort of trying to explore some of these areas, including Avignon. But Avignon, again, a very, very busy tourist town, like so many of these famous cities. that we settled on Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. It's not far, it's about a half an hour, 25 minutes or so south of Avignon. But once again, this region of Alpi is very emblematic of the the western part of Provence, heading into the Rhone Valley. And so it's just a far more laid back place. It makes you feel like you're in Provence. And so on the way, of course, we're going to stop in Aix-en-Provence, so you will get a chance to see that town. We'll have a guided tour. It is very pretty. I particularly love all of the smooth limestone streets that are throughout Aix. It's an amazing, it's a terrific town to visit. And in the afternoon, we'll end up in Saint-Rémy, where we'll spend 4 nights at a lovely hotel that we've picked out here. We'll make our first day trip here to the so-called region of Provence, and this is where we're going to visit the olive oil region that's famous for. I showed you a picture at the beginning of the Moulin Castellat, which the olive oil here, again, distinct from what you find in Spain or in Italy. It's more of a boutique production as opposed to large scale production. And of course, the French are so great in infusing this with truffle and with tarragon and oregano and all these different flavors, and it's really, really amazing. I will never forget that olive oil tasting that we did in Les Baux, and we'll have some time actually in the morning before we head out to do a tour of town and visit the hospital, the psychiatric hospital where Van Gogh spent a whole year. And anyway, that's a whole other story that we'll tell you about Van Gogh and the history of his time in Provence. While we're traveling around Provence, I should mention as well that we've set up this trip so that we're going to be doing it in very small groups. So we're going to be in groups of 6 or 7 members with a driver guide. I particularly like this approach in Provence because, to drive in through the Luberon and the Verdon and all these areas, you've got sort of narrow winding roads, little places to stop, and you're so much more agile, and you can just take in so many more things when you're in small groups. So that's why we like to do it this way. We will spend one day, of course, in Avignon itself. Avignon, most famous for the 14th century Palais des Papes, the residence of the popes. That is pictured here. Is a remarkable structure that has been so well preserved over 700 years of history here. But the other part of Avignon that is fun is, of course, the Pont Saint-Bénézet, which is where the bridge of Avignon. I think we all know the song "Sur le pont d'Avignon." My French or my music is not so good, but if you've ever heard the song about Sur le pont d'Avignon, then this is where it is, that bridge. So there's a viewpoint just about a 5-minute walk from the Palais des Papes, where you can overlook the Rhone River and the Pont d'Avignon, as it were. So it's a great town. It's a great town also for shopping and picking up knickknacks, partly because it is a bit of a tourist mecca. People come here to see this and some of the other structures that are in there as well. They have a Notre Dame church that is very, very impressive in Avignon. And we'll have lunch as well out before heading back to Saint-Rémy for the evening. And then we'll have one final day, which is to head out into the Alpi region. And this time we're going to be heading west and southwest to Arles, which is, of course, in the Rhone Valley. This is where the Rhone comes out into the Mediterranean and is also the gateway to the Camargue. And the Camargue is like a huge ecologically protected area in the delta of the Rhone Valley. It's known for wild horses and very dramatic territory. We'll get a taste of that, but actually Arles itself is one of my favorite towns. I love the architecture and the history here. They have a huge abbey that you can visit. You can see the outside of it here. So we'll wander around Arles and as well get a taste of the. We're going to visit the Luma Foundation, which is a cultural center that it was designed by Frank Gehry. And of course, Frank Gehry is a topic these days because he's about to head into retirement by building his last buildings in Toronto, obviously Canadian born, and he wanted to do his last projects there. And he has very, very exciting structures all over Europe. And of course, this Luma Foundation here being one of them. So that will be a great last day of our tour around Provence. We'll have really taken in so many of the highlights, so much so that you may want to go back. A lot of, I would say a lot, but some Canadians like to retire in the south of France in this area. And when you cruise around, you'll kind of get an idea why. It's rich in culture, the food. I love it. I love Provence. It's an amazing area to visit. So just a few details about our trip. Once again, that you'll find in our program itinerary. So we're heading out October 8th to the 20th, so just about this time next year. And prices here in Canadian dollars. And I just want to mention as well, this is on a small group basis. So we anticipate having a group of between 12 to sort of a maximum of 15, 16 people. We're going to be mostly driving around in 7 and 8 passenger small minivans. Together with our guides. It's a lot more comfortable. You get a very intimate experience. We have selected hand-picked hotels. We're returning to the same hotel in Nice. We enjoyed it so much, the Art Hotel, where every room has sort of a different style to it. And these classic Provençal hotels in both Forcalquier and Saint-Rémy-de-Provence. And all of the other inclusions that are typically with our program, including a host. So airfare and insurance are the things that you have to look after in addition, which our team is more than happy to assist you with. And to give you a sense of flights flying into Nice and out of Marseille, that would be the flight connections if you were to just do this program. And at last look, they're still in sort of this range. So thankfully, airfares in Europe have stayed relatively consistent with the last few years. Other parts of the world are a little bit different. So, but that gives you just a little bit something to go by for budgeting purposes. We, of course, offer our early booking bonus for those of you who sign up for the program during the next month. That gives us an opportunity to secure our rooms, get idea of initial interest. So you can save a couple $100 by booking early for this program, even though it's a year away. But a year goes by so quickly these days. Barb, it's time to answer any questions that any of our members have about this program. You can type them into the chat box or into the Q&A box. And yeah, let's go from there.
Yeah, do you want to cover the weather and sort of
yes.
what type of clothing?
Thank you. Yes. So just a question about the weather in October. Having just toured around sort of southern Europe over the last couple of weeks, I can say that generally speaking, the weather is great. It's a great time to visit. Typically in Provence, on the coast itself in Nice, you're typically going to be in the high teens, in low 20s. It could even be mid 20s. As I say, I've been in Croatia and Spain, similar sort of latitude, if you will, to Provence. And over the last couple of weeks and up until the last couple of days, actually, the weather has been really up into the mid 20s, so quite warm. It gets a little cooler in Provence, perhaps the low 20s during the day, or even the high teens, and at night it drops down to sort of 12 to 15 degrees. So perfect touring weather at this time of the year. You can get rain, a spot of rain here and there. It's not usually very rainy in October, but of course, you never know. So it's always good to have a raincoat and umbrella with you.
Okay, perfect. And maybe just the physical activity. People are asking about what
Yes.
sort of level of physical activity.
Yeah. Thank you. So in terms of, this trip, to really enjoy these towns and cities, you should be mobile enough to be able to walk. I think we constitute this as a moderate trip. For us, moderate means if you are able to sort of on a regular basis walk up to upwards of 10,000 steps a day, if that's sort of your regular routine, you'll have no problem at all in accomplishing this program, because there are the small towns, particularly in Aix-en-Provence, they're all walking because there's very narrow streets. Even our small vans can't get in there, so we have to do a fair bit of walking around. It's not overly strenuous, but it definitely requires a few hours of being on your feet every day.
Okay, perfect. And then there is a question about what combinations are options for this if people want to extend their time in France or Europe.
Yep. So immediately preceding this, we have our Canal du Midi trip. And then I think preceding that, we have our Lyon and Burgundy trip. So those are the programs that I believe are right before this in Lyon Burgundy is after this one, Barb. I don't have the calendar in front of me if I'm not mistaken.
That's right. So Canal de Midi starts on the 20th of September to the 29th, and then from there can even continue to the Lyon and Burgundy 29th of September to the 8th of October. So they can be combined.
Okay. Canal de Midi is 29th of September to the
29th of September to the 20th to the 29th of September
is the Canal du Midi, and then this program. Have that info in front of us. I don't have it in front of me.
So basically it's Canal de Midi, then it's the Lyon and Burgundy, and then it goes on to
this one is the last one, because it ends
Riviera.
at the end of October. Exactly. So
three of them.
There is no France program following this, but there's one immediately preceding this, and it's Lyon and Burgundy, and the Canal du Midi is actually before that. That's the order that we did to best take advantage of the weather and at the same time be at a bit of a quieter time in the season. So there we go. Good deal. Any other questions, Barb?
Somebody's asking if the webinar is available to review after. So yes, if they've registered, it automatically gets sent to them.
Exactly. So you may be watching a replay of this video. We record all of our webinars and we send them out automatically to all those who have registered. And it's also available on our YouTube channel. And we will also post a link to it in the newsletter this weekend, as we always do.
Yeah. And if they have other questions, they can contact Paula and myself.
Exactly. And the webinar for Lyon and Burgundy, I think we already did, if I'm not mistaken.
we have one for the active wellness one for Austria Alps.
Right. I think there's one question in here though, Barb. When will we see the webinar for Lyon and Burgundy? I think we already did Lyon and Burgundy, and it should be on our YouTube channel. Have a look for that. But perhaps, Barb, you could make a note of the question from Kendra and just send her a link to that webinar.
Yeah, perfect.
Fantastic. And as Barb was just saying, we have one more webinar before I'm off hosting a group of members in French Polynesia. So on Thursday, I'm really excited about our new active wellness program in Austria. Do join us for that if you're interested at all in a program that's going to be focused on hiking, as well as wellness, spa resort. This is a terrific new development. We've been working long and hard on this one. So join us to find out all about that. Oh, and Paula said we've not done Lyon and Burgundy for fall 2024 yet. Okay, so apologies for that, Kendra, for the confusion. I've had so many webinars in the last couple of weeks. I don't have them straight in my mind. We will be releasing that trip in November, as soon as I get back from hosting the trip at the beginning part of November. All right, good. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you hopefully on an upcoming webinar on Thursday. Otherwise, I will catch up to you again on another webinar in the mid part of November when I'm back from French Polynesia. Take care. Have yourselves a great rest of the day. Bye-bye.